we're going to segue into Democrats are fooling themselves on immigration. So they're also out of control on immigration. So once again, in the Wall Street Journal, Democrats are fooling themselves on immigration. Voters didn't always like Trump's tone. There's no doubt about that. But they broadly supported his strategy at the border. Out to lunch. That might be the kindest way to describe Joe Biden and Democrats these days on immigration. If they think they have a voter mandate to reverse restrictions advanced by the previous administration, even with the southern border effectively under siege, they're kidding themselves. As with other issues, taxes, climate, court packing, the Biden administration is confusing the nation's rejection of Donald Trump with an endorsement of a progressive agenda. Let's say that again. The Biden administration, this is in the Wall Street Journal, is confusing the nation's rejection of Donald Trump with an endorsement of their progressive agenda. That is absolutely the case because the American people actually didn't like, I think the middle of America, probably many people, maybe not all, but many didn't like the tone and the lack of ability to articulate issues of Donald Trump. But one thing I think is sure, I think they agreed with his policies. Most of Americans did. And the Democrats are confusing that with the fact that this progressive agenda is what the Americans really wanted, which is why they elected Joe Biden. So, but if voters wanted far-left policies, the Democrat House majority wouldn't be so puny. The Senate wouldn't even be evenly split, and Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders would be president. Yes, Beltway elites are reluctant to acknowledge it, but Mr. Trump had his ear to the ground on immigration. Voters didn't always like his tone, and polling suggested they didn't share his wall fixation, but his prioritization of border security resonated with millions of voters, including many who typically vote for Democrats. Even Democrat strategists have acknowledged that deference to progressives, who, by the way, are now raising state income taxes to finance 5-figure COVID relief checks for undocumented workers, played a major role in the party's underperformance among Hispanics last year. Mr. Biden ignores all of this at his peril. And this article continues on, and it's just fascinating that Democrats aren't getting that message that the American people believe, especially the middle of America, believe that there's a certain level of unfairness about illegal immigration where there's this fixation of the Democrat Party on letting anyone come into the country for any reason without following our laws, without following a process. Meanwhile, these Americans are unemployed, or their businesses have been shut down, or they're not fully back to work yet because the economy hasn't fully recovered from COVID-19 shutdowns. And it's understandable why they would be upset, but Democrats are doubling down on this. And since they're doubling down, the American people are just saying, well, you know what? Maybe I made a mistake. Maybe the Republicans would be better to run Congress. And I think that's probably what is coming in 2022. To prove it, in Arizona, Governor Ducey, he's the Republican governor of Arizona, he has called out and mobilized the National Guard to deal with the border issue. Because obviously there are tens of thousands of people that are crossing the border. They're crossing it in Texas and Arizona, obviously California as well. And he's basically saying this is literally distracting us from being able to kickstart our state back after COVID is finally starting to come to a close. And now we have this new crisis. And why is it that Democrats just want crises all the time, including crises that they have made themselves because they don't want to deal with the issue for, of course, as we all know, a variety of reasons. Nonetheless, here is Governor Ducey of Arizona. We have a clip of him talking about why he's mobilizing the National Guard. And ABC 15 News in Arizona is reporting on this. And we have that clip, and here it is.
With no end in sight, tens of thousands of immigrants continue to arrive at the U.S. southwest border.
The border traditionally is a federal issue and a federal focus. The Biden White House has ignored the situation at the border in Arizona and I think across the southern United States.
Governor Doug Ducey wants the Arizona National Guard on the border to help with the crisis. He also wants the federal government to pay for it, just like Presidents Bush, Obama, and Trump did during their administrations. But President Biden hasn't acted yet, and it appears the governor has run out of patience.
Yes, we're going to use every tool, authority, and resource that we have. To be successful on the southern border, we need to work in partnership with the federal government.
So Democrats are losing the middle of America on immigration, of course, among other things that we're going to discuss during this podcast. And here's proof of it, right? Here's a state the Democrats celebrated in 2020, the state of Arizona, and they celebrated it because they said they won that state in the Electoral College, and it's something that hadn't happened in a very long time. And so Democrats were celebrating. And now here they are, doubling down on stupid. And you have the governor of Arizona saying, well, the federal government isn't going to deal with this issue, so now I have to mobilize the National Guard. It's going to cost a lot of money. I'm very busy trying to get our state back to work from COVID-19. And obviously to get schools back up and running and everybody back up and running safely. And meanwhile, I have this new issue. People coming across the border who aren't vaccinated, for starters, right? I mean, Democrats have just lost their minds. And that's, of course, why Democrats are fooling themselves on immigration.